How's it, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Marketing Fix Show. This is episode number 12. And before I introduce our guest today, I want to quickly tell you that we officially have a sponsor for our show. And that sponsor is the Digital School of Marketing. So for everybody listening and who's interested in learning more about the digital marketing realm, or perhaps, you might even be looking for digital marketing courses, you want to educate yourself, the Digital School of Marketing is for you. And let me tell you why. Because they are accredited school internationally and locally. And today we're also giving away, this whole month, we're actually giving away a digital marketing course worth 11,500 Rand. So listen to the show, subscribe, and we are going to pick a lucky winner in the next coming days. Cool. On to our guest, which is Greg Tinkler, the owner of Slender U, the e-commerce brand. Obviously, you have a retail side as well, but today we're mainly going to focus on the success that you guys have had online. Thanks so much for coming in, and I'm looking forward to this chat, man.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me. It's a nice way to spend a lockdown Friday, and I always enjoy nerding out on some marketing chat, so excited.
Yeah, man, thanks again for coming through. I know everybody's a bit sensitive in terms of social distancing, so I really, really appreciate it. I do enjoy doing it in person. Obviously, we're following best practices here, but I do enjoy the feel and the experience. So from my side, maybe just a quick intro, maybe tell everybody who you are and, perhaps how you got into, the weight loss space, because Slender U is obviously a weight loss brand specifically aimed at females, even though it's for everybody. But give us a background. What's the origin story like?
Yeah, so the supplement market is inundated with products for men made by men. And we just found the supplement aisle to be really intimidating for women. And we set out to sort of create a brand that was safe and effective for females.
No, that's awesome, man. And I think essentially there's a couple of points that I want to touch on that I think you guys have hit the nail on the head with, like in terms of the brand, the story, the messaging. Because there are a lot of weight loss brands out there to some extent. I think it's safe to say that it's a competitive market. It's cutthroat, I'm sure. But somehow you guys have gotten it right, because you've technically gone from 0 to about 6 million in sales, in terms of online sales specifically, in a very short time, in the middle of a recession, in the middle of a pandemic, and it's still going and it's still growing. So I would love to chat about some of the strategies that you guys have used specifically for the online side. And I can't wait to talk about that. But maybe tell us about how you got into Slender U specifically. You've had these activation agencies. I think you've had a creative agency. And you said that obviously there was some gap and you kind of spotted it and just went for it. What was the story?
Yeah, so my background in marketing has kind of always been in health and wellness. So I used to work a lot with other supplement brands, vitamin brands, and handling their marketing strategy, their sort of activation strategies. So in that kind of space, I just felt that obviously it was kind of my turn to branch out and build something on our own. I think we'd done all the school fees over the years, learned what works, what doesn't work. And that kind of put us in a nice position to launch our own brand. But like you said, I think there was a gap in the market specifically for women. Like a lot of the time you'd find a woman would have to buy like a male fat burner, for instance, and just use it and hope not to get side effects or get the jitters and hormonal problems and things. So we really felt there was a space for a brand that talks specifically to women, and basically just resonated with them.
Yeah, and I think essentially that's one thing that I've noticed about the brand. You guys have grown quite quickly. So obviously you've done something different. And maybe we can articulate on some of those points, because there's a lot of competitors, like we've mentioned before. You've entered the market. You started with a bang. You mentioned that you paid a lot of school fees in the past, so you know what works and what doesn't. Maybe we can talk about, what doesn't, what some of the brands are maybe doing wrong, and what have you guys decided to do differently?
I think I think a lot of our success comes down to sort of building a community and sort of putting a face to the brand. I think a lot of the brands out there sort of just launch like multiple products and then expect them to sort of just to find the customer, where we set out first to find the customer and then sort of build products around that.
So I had someone else on the show last week, Peter Groenewald. So he's the CEO of the influencer division of the Infinity Group, and we talked about influencer marketing, but we also talked about tribes, building communities, but specifically we used the word tribes. And you mentioned now building a community. Technically, you guys have built your own tribe to an extent, where these people who are falling in love with the brand are advocating the brand on your behalf. I noticed that you guys have a Facebook group Like people are becoming more engaged. So tell me a little bit more about that specifically, because I think it is something that a lot of brands are missing out on. And I think a lot of companies don't necessarily understand the value of creating your own, personal group of, I don't want to use the word influencers, but let's focus on the word tribe specifically. People who obviously are there for constant support, not just from you needing support from you, but also wanting to support other people.
Yeah.
Because you might want to lose weight as a female, and maybe you've gotten it right to some extent. There's other people who are now starting their journey. They're now on chapter 1, and you can add value to them. And I've seen it on Facebook specifically. There's this option to start Facebook groups, and it becomes quite engaging, and people want to help each other. So essentially, that's something that you guys have done really well. What was the strategy there?
Yeah, I think it's just basically to, like I said, to put a face kind of to the brand. I mean, like from day one, I've been sort of heavy focused on customer support and sort of customer experience, and like everything from the way someone receives a package from us from e-commerce to the groups and how we engage is sort of a strategy, And so basically we set out as selling products, and then it got into something a lot bigger where it's basically a movement now, or tribe, as you say, where women are actually inspiring each other to be healthy and make better choices, and it's become really sort of organic in those groups, because these women just talk to each other daily, help each other daily, and we kind of just take a back seat just to let them build that community,
Everybody is almost committed to the cause.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like when someone sees somebody else post like a transformation pick over 6 weeks, it just inspires everybody else to know that they can actually do it. So, like with us as well, you'll never see us like other brands posting kind of like bikini models for marketing and things. Like all the marketing we do and all the sort of creative you see out there is actual customers and actual transformations. And that's been something we try to do from day one as well,
What I'm hearing you say is like being real, being authentic, and being transparent with not only your customers, but also just everybody as a whole, whether you're a customer or not, to saying, look, it's not going to be easy, but here's the reality of the matter. It's possible. You're going to have to commit, and you potentially have the ability to help other people, and other people are going to probably help you. And it's all about trying to help each other, reach those specific goals that we've lined out for ourselves, right?
Yeah, I mean, like we've got actually like a sort of a mantra on the website saying our products aren't magic pills. Like you can't expect to sort of take like drink alcohol, eat pizza, and then take up products and get a six-pack. But we do say our products are magic in the right hands, and then that kind of leads our way into the community where we're heavily focused on education. And there's a big gap in the market out there with health and fitness where people don't actually understand the diet aspect of it and what supplements do, and supplements have sort of a bad stigma in the market. And so we're trying to bridge that gap with education, value, and so forth.
Yeah, so I want to touch quickly on, you mentioned earlier, you said that you focus on the experience. And I think a lot of brands are just focused on selling a product. They don't really focus on selling an experience.
Yeah.
And I always use Apple as an example. Like, and I'm seeing slowly that Samsung is doing the exact same thing, where the packaging is just, Samsung's packaging has changed completely since 5 or 10 years ago. And I think that's one thing that Apple has done extremely well over time, is like giving you that experience of opening that box for the very first time. Like it slides off so slowly, and people are actually excited. And I remember being in an iStore about 2 years ago when I got the new iPhone, and the guy was like, "Do you want to open the box?" And I was like, "No, just put the screen protector on. Like, I don't care." And then I thought for 1 second. I asked him, "Are you trained to ask me that? Like, why did you ask me to open the box if I wanted to open the box?" And he's like, "No, we actually trained to ask the customers if they want to open the box because it's an experience. So we don't want to take that away from them. So if you want me to put a screen protector on your brand new phone, like I'm going to give you that option to open the box because it's an experience for you." And that was pretty interesting. And I actually did kind of like change my perspective on, that experience. And I think that's something that you guys have done well, not just from a perspective of like delivering the package, but it's all an experience.
Yeah.
Whether you're in the group, whether you are buying the product online, even in store, I'm sure that's something that a lot of more brands can focus on.
Yeah, I think it's everything down from the yellow box that you receive your Slender U, and like customers actually get upset when they don't receive the yellow box. So we've always, from day one, tried to make like our packaging Instagrammable in inverted commas. So people actually post about the box that they receive, and then they do the unboxings. That's a big sort of part of our sort of community now as well, is where like people, when they join Slender U, they do this whole unboxing, and it's kind of like a trend.
Yeah, no, I wanted to agree with you, and I said that I did see the yellow box, and it looks amazing. Like, it really looks good. And the one thing I've noticed is that there are a ton of photos on Instagram. When I hashtag Slender U, there's a lot of people who feel like, they can't wait to take a picture with those boxes.
Yeah, so I think we sort of hit the nail on the head there with like people want to share experiences online, and yeah, everything from the box to what you receive in the box. So we're very sort of meticulous on sort of inserts and thank you cards and coupons. So every month when you receive your Slender U box, there's something different in the box if you're a recurring customer. So we're trying to keep it sort of fresh like that, and then basically just follow up support. We do a lot of so as you receive your products, the customer support's on you. A week or two into the journey, we follow up. So we're trying to keep in touch with the customers sort of on a weekly or monthly basis to share progress.
Yeah, I think it's checking in to see, hey, are you okay? Did you get the products?
Yeah.
How's the products? Is everything okay? Did you have a bad experience? Is the taste off? And I think there's always people who you only hear from a customer if they usually complain, but it's nice to follow up and say, like, we have an online program that we do, and people can enroll for free. But I've got obviously that emails that goes out and saying, hey, did you get your logins? Hey, how did you find the first part of the course? When someone is halfway through, I send another mail like, have you found any value in this? And do you have any questions so far? And I think it's constantly checking in with people and finding out, you've supported us by giving us your money and buying our products. Let us find ways to support you, not by only giving you good products, but then helping you through this journey. And that's something that you guys have been exceptional at.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's one of the sort of easiest things as a business you can do, and one of the most sort of neglected. I mean, people, like you say, sell the product, then they think sort of the journey's over. And I think that's a sort of also probably plays part into our success is the number of recurring customers we get. And I think that's purely through down to the follow-ups and the check-ins and pushing them into the community and just making them sort of part of something instead of a transaction.
The word that stood out for me there, even though you didn't say the exact word, but that's kind of like what I heard, is that you guys truly care.
Yeah, I think so, man. Like for me, it's it makes no sense if I'm putting out products and plans and advice out there and it doesn't work. Because for me, if a customer has a bad experience and doesn't come back, then we're not running a sustainable business. So so we've heavily focused on retention.
And that's the only way to grow an online store, actually, in terms of digital marketing strategies, because it costs you money to implement these strategies. And if customers are only going to buy the product once off, especially if you're consumer focused, then you're not going to be profitable. And we've seen this. Like, obviously, we have a ton of clients, and we've seen that if a customer just comes and buys a product once off, the chances of you really becoming profitable is really, really tough, because you had to pay a specific amount of money to get that customer to open his wallet. So let's, for example, say it costs you 200 Rand to get someone to buy a product of 500 bucks, including the product cost that it cost you to manufacture, including shipping. You could easily actually just break even or even run at a loss. So the nice thing is, by adding this experience, by adding the customer support, by having these groups, by really being authentic, people feel like they want to come back and try it again and keep using it, because it's a lifestyle as well. And then from there, what we've seen is that person that you've now paid 200 Rand for, next month, they don't cost you anything. And if they buying from you for the next 6 months, it's 500 bucks times 6, it's now 3 grand, but you only paid 200 Rand to acquire that customer. So retention is extremely important.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think if you're chasing new customers all the time, you're going to be chasing your whole life. So we heavily focused. Like, I think people have become, once they've gone through sort of the journey 2 or 3 times, they become advocates. And so when we launch a new brand, they sort of almost like not comparing to Apple, but people are putting their hands up like way before we launch to actually have the product. And that's what you want. You want to create like this demand and this exclusivity, and that's all part of the experience.
And I saw one of the latest products that you've launched was collagen. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's our collagen for her. It's just sort of natural collagen peptides, but with added fiber and certain things to aid female digestion. So it's a bit of a unique collagen product. And the response to that's been massive. And we had, like, obviously it's not our first sort of product that we launched, so we had nice strategies in place to sort of launch that and sequences and things like that. So basically, it was a really great launch. Yeah.
The products itself, like we've talked about the fact that you guys are unique because you focus on providing that experience post the sale in terms of support, in terms of just feedback and, advice, value, education. The products itself, is there anything really that, obviously there's certain things that makes the products unique. Maybe just, is there any specific things that you can articulate in terms of what makes the products? I know it's raw and you've got vegan and all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah, so basically I think the main sort of differentiator is that it's all vegan friendly. So all of our powders are plant-based, so pea protein, it's all sustainable, better for the earth. All of our capsules are vegan capsules, so there's nothing there. Like we say our products have everything you need and nothing you don't, so zero nasties. And yes, we pride ourselves on clean, effective products that are 100% natural.
And I think essentially one thing that you've mentioned it before, you've paid the school fees in terms of brand, being activations, having been in activations, being a creative agency. The message of the brand is so crucial, like really what you're portraying out into the world. And personally, in my own experience, I think you guys hit the nail on the head just with the name itself, like Slender U.
Yeah. I think we wanted to be sort of, like I said before, the supplement market is very complicated and sort of complex and intimidating, and we wanted to be sort of really fresh and friendly, simple kind of entry into your first experience. So everything from the name through to the packaging. Like on our products, you'll see the packaging it says exactly what it does. So if it's a fat burner, this is a fat burner. If it's a shake, it says shake. Like, so we don't want to confuse the market as well when they're going into to buy, because a lot of our buyers are obviously first-time supplement users.
What I love about the name specifically is it's clear. And there's a saying that says, be clear, don't be clever.
Yeah, exactly.
So essentially, you're going to pay a lot more money to acquire a customer if you're trying to be clever. Yeah. Especially if you're trying to target the masses. So if you're trying to target a specific niche of people, a very targeted audience that would understand your humor or sarcasm or whatever kind of like tonality you're going with, then obviously you can be clever. But if you're focusing on the masses, it's so important to be clear. And you've just touched on that. The name itself, Slender You, the products and the product names, that's truly very simple to understand for anybody, really. And I think really that's what you guys have done well. You were very clever and you were very clear, not necessarily clever about it.
Yeah, I think it's just, you got to try and take out every kind of complexity there is for the customer in the journey. Like, don't make too many products, don't make it too complicated, and just get your messaging simple and straight.
No, it's something that you guys have hit the nail on the head with. In terms of the digital marketing side, you guys have obviously, you're spending money on all kinds of strategies, and I'm sure you're doing in-store activations and, all kinds of other traditional forms of media. If you are, maybe you can just correct me if you're not. But from a digital perspective, how aggressive are you guys in digital marketing? And maybe we can talk about some of the strategies that you guys have used.
So just to come back to your point, we actually 100% digital now. So
okay.
Obviously, due to COVID and certain things, we do less sort of physical marketing. But even before COVID, we would have probably had a split of like 90% digital, 10% offline. So basically we're heavily focused on Facebook, Instagram advertising, influencers, direct marketing via email and messenger. So I'm sure you want to unpack that kind of stuff. But so to answer your question, we focused on digital.
And it's so important. Like, I suppose in the times that we're in, you're kind of forced to be digital, which is a good thing for a lot of brands, especially if you have a product that you can sell online. So that's great. And I always say, like, even though we're digital advocates, like, we obviously advise customers to spend more of their budget in a digital sense because it's measurable, it's predictable, you can actually scale better because you have the right metrics in place. Specifically for your small to medium-sized brands, there's always room for traditional media in some form. Like, there's a reason Absa, Nando's, Vodacom, all these brands are tapping into or will continue to tap into those opportunities because there's still room for it. But for a business starting out, it might not always necessarily make sense. And I think that's what you guys have done well. From day one, every single cent that you've invested in marketing was kind of like strategically planned, and you kind of like thought out where can you get the best bang for buck, right?
Yeah, I think obviously we didn't have the luxury of sort of starting with massive funding or investors. We kind of wanted to bootstrap our own way through. And so like you say, we had to sort of calculate every risk we take. And if you look at spending 5,000 Rand on an outdoor event or 5,000 Rand on Facebook ads, Facebook's going to win every day, So so yeah, we had to be sort of clever and precise and use the money wisely.
No, exactly. And for the SMEs listening, I think it's very important to know that it's nice to have a billboard and it's nice to be able to afford a billboard. And to some extent, that billboard will, to some point, will allow you to lower your overall costs in terms of acquisition. I'm sure there's always room for traditional, but if you're starting out, like you use the word bootstrapping, you want to really make every cent count. And that's where we advise, going in all out on digital, especially if you want to scale. And I think not having taken investors on board today, you guys are smiling because what the company is worth now versus what it would have been worth, I would say if you had investors on board, the portion of the shares as divided, now it's a lot more valuable because you bootstrapped, and it's possible to do today because of the likes of a Facebook and an Instagram that's yielding so much attention, and it's really, really working efficiently for brands.
Yeah, I think we've just done the hard yards, and I mean, you just got to start. I mean, if there's any guys who are just starting, it's basically if you've got R1,000 or 500 rand, just put it to use wisely and put it into Facebook or Instagram or digital marketing, and that 500 can turn into 5,000, and then you can just keep on compounding from there.
So, in terms of your social media strategies, is there anything specific that you guys are focusing on Facebook or anything specific for Instagram? Let's start maybe with Facebook, even though the two platforms are owned by the same company. So Facebook obviously owns Instagram, but maybe you can just unpack what are you guys doing on Facebook? What are you doing on Instagram? Just for those listening.
So like our whole strategy, everything sort of points into our direct lists. So that being email and Messenger. So even if we're running Facebook ads, we're running them into Messenger to build our subscriber base in ManyChat. And then same with Instagram. If we're running an Instagram post or having an influencer do a post on Instagram, those guys are pushing people to a landing page where we're collecting emails. And what we do in those lists is basically we build those lists and then we drive people from those lists into our Facebook community, the group. And we found that works really well just to have everyone in a sort of one ecosystem that has a high sort of open rate, if I can call it, like an engagement rate. And yeah, that seems to be winning for us.
I kind of used the analogy in the previous episode with Gilbert where we said it's about understanding the difference between renting a house and buying a house. And I think to some extent advertising on these mediums today, the analogy fits just purely because if you're advertising on Facebook and Instagram, you're renting that property.
Yeah.
And if you're giving Facebook $5,000, they can decide to take the $5,000, and when your $5,000's up, you're going to have to put up another $5,000. If they don't like what you're saying, they can kick you off the platform. So it's like a landlord that says, hey, listen, I'm selling the house. You're now going to be out with your bum on the street. Owning your actual house, you can do whatever you want. And that's what a direct marketing list means to me, is that you owning, I mean, people are obviously not property, but what we're trying to say is like you owning that asset, which is someone that you can now communicate with directly. So if you had to advertise on Facebook and Instagram, you are paying to communicate with that customer. And it's even though it's affordable, it is more expensive than sending someone an SMS or an email.
Yeah.
And what you've said there is like all your strategies point in driving people into a direct marketing list. And that's something I've advocated. I mean, when we started and when we met, when we talked about you guys launching this brand, this is the exact strategies that we discussed. So that's kind of like why I wanted to have you guys here. But it's so important to own the customer and their details so that you can communicate with them at a cheaper price. And you can educate them with new products. When they launch, why they're launching, why they exist, the ingredients behind it, what makes them really efficient or effective. And then on top of that, also, just adding the value in terms of that customer and support and all that other stuff that we've discussed previously. So I'm so happy that you've mentioned that you guys are focusing on a direct marketing list, and maybe tell us a little bit about what you guys are using specifically. You're using email and Messenger, right? Or is there anything else?
No, so basically email and Messenger is the sort of main strategies. So with email, like I said, we'll use a high value content offer. So like an e-guide or a recipe book. We'll use sort of like a bait guide to give our customers something of value, basically. So off Instagram, for instance, we'll post for them to get the free guide. It will go into the landing pages and we'll capture the emails. And then from there, the guys will join an email sequence. So they'll get like a welcome email, sort of outlining our expectations, and then basically from there we really like to use those channels for pure value. So it's back to like Gary V's old philosophy, the jab, 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 right hook. That's what we do. We push a lot of value into these funnels, and then basically when it comes time for us to launch a product, the customers are happy.
Yeah, and it's now cheaper to communicate with those customers, because if you didn't have them in your email list or your messenger list, then you would have had to pay to advertise that same message to them on Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah, and I find that Facebook and Instagram is also like, it's a public sort of domain. So as soon as you pull them into your messenger or your email, then it becomes more of a personal conversation. And so people, I think, also react well to joining lists and becoming part of some sort of an experience or club, if that makes sense.
And in terms of your email and messenger performance, like a lot of people have tried it and they say it doesn't necessarily work for them, just purely because I think they don't necessarily know how to execute on those strategies. Like, it's obviously quite tactical, and you need to be technical if you want it to get it to work. One thing I always say is a successful marketing strategy consists of technology combined with psychology. And using email and using messenger, even if you had to run Facebook ads, that is the technology side. That allows you to communicate with your customers. That allows you to reach them and obviously articulate whatever you want to articulate. Then there is the psychology side, where you need to understand what people want, the pain points. And you've touched on that. And you said you're adding value. You're giving them these free recipe guides because you know they're looking for healthy recipes. You're giving them workout guides at home because you know obviously people are stuck at home and they probably want to just be active. And essentially, understanding that psychology is really, really important, because if either one of these two platforms, these pillars, are not in sync with each other, you're not necessarily going to get the value out of the whole strategy. So using the technology is one thing, but truly understanding the psychology of the platform that you're on and the customer who you're talking to is really, really important. So from an email perspective, a messenger perspective, I think, can you maybe share with us, like, how's your emails performing in terms of engagement rates? Like, what is the standard these days? Are people replying to you, or is it going well? Like, I mean, obviously you guys are doing it because it's working, but is there a certain return from mails that you can share with us? I mean, you don't have to, but maybe just give us some percentages. That'll be cool.
Yeah, I don't really know like percentages offhand. I mean, I think like your customer in email and your customer in messenger are two very like different people, we found. To come to your psychology sort of angle, like we find that people who engage in email are a lot sort of more conservative, and in our messenger sort of subscribers are the guys who will react to a quick sale or a quick sort of blast announcement. So it's kind of like messenger is like that sort of quick date, and emails like the relationship. But yeah, to come back to your question, it's we've had really good success. I mean, I can't think of the figures off my head, but we got good open rates in our emails. And I think it's just down to the copy and what you're actually providing. I mean, if people are spamming you with email every day, you're obviously not going to have good sort of rates. But I mean, if you're giving the people something they want and it's kind of sort of attractive to their current situation and it resonates with them, then obviously they're going to look forward to reading it each day or whenever you send.
No, exactly. And I think that's so important. Like you said before, jab, 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 right hook. So it's not just about always asking for the sale, because that's the first thing people do the moment they get an email address, is the ones they have like 100 people in their email marketing service like MailChimp or whatever they're using, the first thing they want to do is promote a sale. And they want to continuously do that because they want to make more money. People don't understand that it's not about that. And that's the best way to annoy people and to get them to opt out. So continuously adding value is super important. And it's funny that you mentioned Messenger, and I'm sure that on that note, that's also where you get the people who are constantly maybe more engaged in terms of wanting to maybe ask questions about the products, maybe ask questions about the workouts, maybe actually get an idea of what the whole business and the brand and the model and maybe even the message is all about. I think that's where you're going to get people who are just more, what is the word? Not extroverts, but I'm assuming it's like people who actually just want to be more engaged with you. They be like, hey, dude. Like,
quick response, yeah. I mean, like Messenger's become our number one sort of customer channel, or the busiest, if that makes sense. So it's everything from your customer support to general information to announcements. That's kind of the go-to sort of, like I call it like the broadcast platform. So that's obviously open rates on that is massive. So as long as you're not spamming as well, and that can also become a problem. So Our messenger frequency is a lot less than email. We probably look at 2 or 3 messenger posts per month at most. And most of that's basically just to drive the guys into the community, the Facebook group.
No, I'm so happy you mentioned Messenger because we had Gilbert on the show last week and we talked about chatbot marketing and we talked about ManyChat specifically and how to set that up and how to go about using it. In terms of software tools, you mentioned ManyChat as well, so that's what you guys are using.
Yeah, so we've been using ManyChat from the start, and that's.
I think I set it up for you guys.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah. So I still give Jandre I still give you the email every now and then to figure something out. But I mean, yeah, it's gone really well for us. I mean, I think we're up around 70,000 subscribers.
What? That's a lot. Damn. Wow.
And we're working on so we're aiming at about 300, 400 a day joining that subscriber list.
That's a lot,
and it's via opt-ins of ads or guides or sort of bait offers, things like that.
Yeah. And do you have a metric in place that you can share, the return on sales that you're getting or the return on ad spend on that specific channel, or do you maybe not have anything at hand?
Yeah, I mean, it's just basically, I think we're getting really good sort of bang for our buck. I mean, like pushing people into Messenger, we're looking like under 20 cents and
Sure.
sort of engagement posts like 50 cents. Everything's under a rand.
Yeah.
It's always like our target, and I think that's why we're getting sort of that rate of 300 people a day into the bots because we've got the copyright, we've got the creative right.
Yeah. No, it's crazy, and I think that's one thing I thought of yesterday, and I had a long chat with Gilbert about the creative and the copy, because you can have amazing creative, but if the copy is not necessarily in sync with your creative, that's usually when you have some form of disconnect, and that's usually when your costs go up. So I don't want to have this go over anybody's head now, but I sat in front of Ads Manager and I had a post that had like a 10% CTR, like a click-through rate. So there was huge attention on the post. But then Facebook also has an outbound CTR that shows you, okay, this is how many people see the post and click on the post. But the outbound CTR tells you that's the amount of people that actually decided after they've seen and clicked on the post, they decided to actually go to your site. And the conclusion was, after chatting to Gilbert about this huge disconnect, because we had like a 20% CTR in terms of people clicking on the post or, viewing the post. And then we had like a 2% click-through rate back to the site. So there was a massive disconnect to some extent because we have their attention, but yet something is not getting people, or something's not convincing people to click through to the site. So we're grabbing their attention with the creative. And my theory was that I think it's the copy that needs to be improved, because usually the creative is the first thing people see in a newsfeed, because that's obviously what the colors draw your attention. So I ended up working on the copy, and I changed it, and I was like, okay, let me try and find more contextual copy for this specific photo. And it was a photo of me standing with the book that we've just launched, which I don't even have here, but I'll give you one afterwards. It's a photo of me with our book, and I was quite standing just passively, and there was a timeline behind me, and I said there, attention all business owners. So it was a very urgent copy. Yeah. Like it looked like it was quite urgent, bold with the exclamation mark. And we were running this as an ad. And I felt like, okay, the copy was very urgent, but my post is very passive. So it was a matter of just me standing there with the post, chilled. I'm not doing anything of urgency in the post. Like if I was doing this in the post, then obviously the urgency of the copy matches the urgency of the creative. So I changed the copy to a bit more of a passive copy. And funny enough, the click-through rates back to the site went up just purely because we found that balance between the copy and the creative. And I think that's kind of like what you were touching on now. It's like, it's so important. It's not just about running ads. It's not just about targeting people who are interested in weight loss. It's about really understanding, who you're speaking to, and then finding those ways to connect the creative with the copy and making sure that people understand what is happening here right now and what benefit there is if they engage with this post.
Yeah, I think like it's all down to trial and error. Like you've just experience on finding out what works and then sticking to that, So
continuously testing everything.
Exactly. I mean, and once you found a success, not like kind of banking that and keeping it. A lot of guys will have a good month in ads on Facebook, for instance, and then change it up the next month just because they feel like changing up the creative and things. But they could actually be on the same ads continuously for as long as it's working. It's like if a TV ad's working for a company every month, why change it up or why drop off? So the same goes for Facebook.
Yeah, and you touched on that, and I'm so happy you mentioned that, because last year I set up an ad, 2 years ago actually, one of our first clients. I set up an ad, It was in April. And funny enough, that ad ran for about 18 months before we changed it. Just purely because every single month we got the same results from it.
Yeah.
And I was in a meeting, I know about 3 months in after I started the business with another company. And they're like, every month we want new creatives because we need to be fresh. And I sat there and I said, hold on, do you want to be fresh? And they're like, yeah, we want to be fresh every month. I was like, do you know how many people are on Facebook every month? No, how many? I said, there's close to 10 million or 9 million people now a month, every month on Facebook. Trust me. Like, your $5,000 or $10,000 is not going to reach all of them.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily have to try and keep it that fresh. There's a lot of people who don't know who you are, specifically for small to medium-sized businesses. So essentially what it came down to is that let the data tell you when to refresh your ads. Let the data tell you what to do with your creative. Like yesterday with that post that I had to tweak, let the data tell you what to tweak and essentially guide you in what works.
Yeah, numbers don't lie.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think it's obviously understanding those numbers that are truly, truly important. So in terms of Facebook, and Instagram, you guys are running ads, and it's obviously working quite well. And I know you guys mentioned influencer marketing. That's also something that you're quite big on, because I see a lot of people, with the product. I don't know if it's customers. I don't know if it's influencers, but maybe you can shed some perspective. Like from an influencer perspective, what are you guys currently doing?
So that's a major focus for us, probably just as in line with the paid media stuff. So we have quite a big network of influencers we sort of utilize every month. The nice thing is we don't pay any of our influencers, and these all kind of guys who've advocated and used the brand themselves.
Good.
But it works really well. I still think in South Africa especially, I think that it's still got a lot of legs to use influencers. And basically, we do it a little bit differently. So like I say, we don't pay our influencers, but we kind of use them as affiliates. So each of our influencers has a unique code which we use on Shopify, and which allows like their followers to receive a discount plus the influencer to receive a bit of a commission on their post. So basically they're doing what they would have done, but at least now they're getting to earn a bit of money off it as well. And that's worked out really well for us in the long run.
That's awesome. I like the fact that you mentioned that you're not paying your influencers. Like, I feel not every single brand should go out and pay influencers. And I want to get your thoughts on this. Is it really worth having an influencer that you pay 20, 30 grand a month for 2 years, and it's just one person advocating the brand? So if you were a company, an SME, who had a bit of budget and you wanted to do influencer marketing, what were your thoughts on being someone? Should they focus on getting a big, well-known individual and spend all their money on that individual and just have them advocate the brand? Or is it better to kind of focus on finding nano influencers, people who actually want to try the product and love the product, and give them that product and see what they do?
Yeah, I think it's like sort of back to your point on the billboards and things. I think it's having a very big sort of celeb influencer is a nice to have, like a billboard. So I think if you've got the budget to do it and you want to use it as a branding exercise, I think that's the main sort of role of it, to be a brand awareness kind of move. But for me, it's better to use your micro influencers, guys like 1,000 to 10,000 followers. We found that that's more authentic as well, and because if you put out a big celebrity or model or something, 90% of the public knows it's a paid sort of ad, and most of these celebrities have to actually put ad in the post. So I mean, basically we focus on authentic people who actually want to use the product, people who are in sort of our niche, so in fitness or sort of influential moms who want to lose weight. So we kind of go that route where it's relatable to whoever we're trying to talk to as well. That's
awesome. You mentioned the sponsored side, because I had this analogy where I often ask people, obviously Google ads will work. It does work. But if you had to ask somebody, how often do you click on Google ads? You know those 3 ads at the top? How often would you click on that? And they would say, oh, well, not often. I usually scroll, to the 3rd and 4th, more organic section of Google. And that's where I usually click. If you're speaking to people who are more frequently using Google, or using Google more frequently. And that's the exact I feel with influencers, because that Google ad says sponsored. So you know that this is a company paying for my attention right now. And what people tend to do is a lot of companies who are looking for a specific service would click on that. But if you're looking to get insights and educational content, then you'd usually scroll down to the 3rd or 4th post, and that's usually where you would start engaging. Google's done an amazing job to not make that look like an ad now, but according to law, they still need to put sponsored or ad next to it. And immediately, from a psychological perspective, there's some sense of immunity around that, because you're like, oh, I don't want to click on that. I want to click on the organic content, because I know that's it's number one for a reason. It's number one because people like it. It's number one because it's good content. It's number one because, obviously a lot of other websites are confirming that this is because of backlinks and all these other things. So now, when that happens, I think influencer marketing is very similar, because if someone says, if they're a sponsored athlete and they have to put now sponsored into the hashtag or something like that to make it, to confirm that this is a sponsored post of some sorts, it's exact same thing. It's the exact same thing as a sponsored ad on Facebook or Google. Like, obviously, there's a lot of people that engage with that, but there's also a sense of this is not that authentic or that real.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you kind of like touched on, right?
Yeah, like, so we try to, with the influencers we take, we try to get them to sort of join us on the journey. Like, so we'll find if we provide product or to an influencer, for instance, and they post once and then it kind of falls off, then that's not the person for us. We look for the person who uses our products, shares it weekly, is actually excited to share photos of them making smoothies with a shake. So as people actually put it into their current routine and lifestyle, it works better for us. And it's so it's basically is an authentic transaction.
No, I love that. And from the Facebook ads, influencer marketing, and driving people into direct marketing lists, that's basically, is there anything else that you guys are really focusing on at the moment? Is there anything worth looking at? What's new? What's happening? If there are e-commerce brands out there, I know you guys have a Shopify store. Maybe for those Shopify owners out there, is there maybe some tactical software tool that they can look at? I don't know. Any insights that you can share with us?
Not really, man. Like, I think it's basically those are our main sort of routes that we use because they work. Another thing that's worked really well for us is sort of scarcity. So our top seller is our 21-day challenge, which is a 3-week course that you get. So it's supplements, private Facebook group, personal training, those kind of things. So it's a monthly course, but we only open that on the 25th of each month for 5 days. So that builds up like a really sort of kind of like a FOMO kind of feel in the market, where for the whole month we're pushing the sign-ups for this challenge, but we only have a 5-day window that you can actually purchase it. So that really gives it that exclusive feel and really drives people to actually purchase on that date. So that's worked really well for us going forward.
There's no, in terms of tests, like you've seen, like that's probably done much better. Sorry, you haven't really seen that specific strategy has done much better than a traditional keeping the entries open throughout the month. Is there a percentage in differences yet, or that you've seen?
Yeah, so we've actually tested that, and the scarcity model was probably about 50% more.
What? That's so cool.
It's just because people react to missing out, or people feel that if this is an exclusive offer, they're going to jump at it, And the nice thing is we have limited spaces in that kind of offering, and we offer a lot of sort of, like I say, we have the private Facebook group that the open group can't actually see. But we do post snippets from what's happening in there, so then obviously the group members get FOMO and they want to join it next time. So it's part of the whole strategy of driving people from buying like our collagen for $1.99 to going to our $7.99 sort of highest ticket. So,
yeah. I love it, man. And I think it's so nice to talk about, because we've talked about a lot of these strategies in the past when Slender U just started. And it's so nice because, it's been a while since we really caught up. Yeah. So it's really, really awesome to see it all just pan out and kind of see that it's, real, kind of see that it's working. It's really awesome to kind of like put a plan in motion and really see the success of it. So that's really, really good to see. I want to conclude, and I want to say, look, thank you so much for coming through today. I think from our side, there's a ton of SMEs out there currently starting, Shopify stores and online businesses, and potentially a lot of direct-to-consumer brands. So the value that you've shared today is really, it's definitely, I think, one of the more valuable podcasts for SMEs out there. Thanks. And I want to thank you for coming through, and all these tips and nuggets that you've shared today is very valuable. And I want to thank you for that. But yeah, thanks for coming through. And I think if anybody obviously wants to check out Slender U, where can they go? Social channels, if they want to mail you directly, maybe for tips and advice, what's the story?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Greg Tinkler. And then the brand at Slender U Shake on Instagram, and then the website's obviously slenderu.coza. Yeah, so that's pretty much us.
Cool, man. Yeah, Greg, thanks so much for coming through. Thanks for dropping all the knowledge bombs. Maybe we can do another podcast sometime soon. I would like to talk more about Shopify, and especially, and more the online side of it and the technical side of it as well for those who kind of like want to start out. Because from to, I don't want to waste too much time on talking about those, digress the topic, but you basically started the Shopify store by yourself. It wasn't really that complicated to do. Yeah. It's not like you had to pay like all these developers hundreds and thousands of rands.
Yeah, I mean, we still, like you say, when I started, I built the site myself, and I'm by far the furthest thing from a web designer ever. And we still kept it very sort of in-house. We haven't hired any agencies to build it out or anything like that. So it just shows that anybody can actually, you can start up and run within a few hours. And then like with Shopify, I found just keep it simple. Don't make it overwhelming. So have your sort of key offering front and center. Have a lot of social proof. That's a massive thing we didn't touch on, is that having social proof like before and afters, testimonials, or if you're a service business, like reviews, is massive. And that's what I would say to the guys starting out, is if you've got a brand that actually works.
Hold on, let's pause that. If we want to let's talk about testimonials and social proof quickly. I've obviously got a section now where we concluded, but I kind of like asked Greg. Yeah, so we'll just put this section in. I'll tell you exactly where to slot it in. Okay. Cool. Because we said, is there anything else that's working quite well? And then you mentioned, what did you mention now at the end?
The scarcity stuff.
Scarcity stuff. And then I'm saying after, I'll just say like, I'm so happy. And then I said I'm happy that everything is panning out. And then from there, on top of scarcity, is there anything else that you think a business really needs today in terms of online that you think will help them increase their chances of a sale online? And then we can talk about social proof.
Okay, cool.
What else is there? Social proof, testimonials, which will include influencer marketing, Instagram ads. We've talked about everything. Yeah, so we'll just talk about that for like a couple of minutes, and then we'll conclude. Cool.
Sweet.
I'll take it off. Yeah, so apart from the urgency side, what else do you think people need to be aware of? Or at least, is there anything else that you think people need to include on their websites or on social channels that can help them increase the chances of a sale?
I think like one of the really biggest things you need to focus on is social proof. So before and after pictures, testimonials, if you're a service-based business, reviews from customers, and actually put those front and center for everyone to see. There's a lot of sort of, I don't want to say fake, but there's a lot of, like, people need confirmation out there. And so we found that's the main reason why we drive people into the community group, actually, is because that community group is full of social proof. And we repurpose that social proof into Instagram stories, into Facebook ads, into posts. So someone posts a transformation picture or writes about our speedy delivery, that goes straight into our Instagram stories. We found that converts really well.
One thing I heard there was user-generated content as well, because what I've seen is that the group helps a lot in proving that this is a real business. Yeah. It's not just someone who's trying to take my money. It's actually someone who cares, and it's actually the support group by itself shows you that you care. So yes, obviously you're a product that I'm going to pay for. You're a brand selling a product that I'm going to pay for, but that's fine. But I can see that there's additional care and motive behind this brand. And that's what the group kind of like stands for, and that's what it screams at the consumer, saying, okay, cool, I'm going to buy the product, but it's not just a brand. They actually want to help. Therefore, they have this support group. Therefore, all these people. And the more people that join that group, the more social proof you have. And essentially, the more people are active in that group, it just shows you that it's like this tribe that you're building, this movement that you're creating, which is quite exciting. But every single time someone, and I think a lot of business owners don't necessarily understand the value of this specifically, but every single time someone posts a photo of your brand or your product, that's obviously something we call user-generated content. Yeah. You guys use a lot of that as well, from what I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, everything from, like when I spoke about inserts in our packages, we have inserts that encourage customers to share their products online and get discount codes as a result. So everything from that to on the community, where we're encouraging people to share their progress so they can help each other, and all that kind of filters into new customer acquisition at the end of the day. Yeah.
So that's the first thing I did. Like when I got the book, I gave the book to 5 people and I said, send me photos.
Yeah.
And it just like essentially it just shows that other people have the book and they're reading the book, which means that this might be a book worth buying. Like we didn't write the book to publish it to sell, to make money. It's purely an education drive and it's purely a branding exercise. But the nice thing is that we've now created these like 5-6 photos already of people who've sent me photos back. And I mean, we only got it like a week or 2 ago. And the nice thing is now we're using that on the site, we're using that as ads, and people can see, okay, it's a real book. So it's not just an ebook of 10 pages. Because that's also the thing now is that when you say we've got something of value, that's what everybody else is saying as well. And the people who are going through those customer journeys with those brands, they get like a 10-page ebook that actually has no value.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like how to prove to people that you have more value than the next brand. And that's kind of like what user-generated content allows you to do. This is what these Facebook groups allows you to do. And I know, very, very powerful tactics. And you guys have obviously leveraged it quite well.
Yeah, I mean, like we even got our, for instance, we got our Slimmer of the month. So every month we reward like the biggest Slimmer or the person who's achieved the biggest sort of hurdle. And it's nice that the women actually sort of strive to have this. It's like, so that's also creates that sort of user-generated content where every woman is now at the end of the month posting their results in hope to sort of become the Slimmer of the month and win something. So we kind of make it fun and encourage the guys not to be sort of embarrassed or shy to post about journeys and products and things like that.
That's really, really cool. And in terms of prizes, what do you guys give away?
Anything from cash prizes to getaways to massages. So we try and keep it like every month it's something different, which also kind of keeps it exciting. So one month someone could win 10 grand, and next month they could win something smaller. But like you don't know what you're going to get. You know?
And essentially, it creates a sense of actually people using the product, and essentially people being committed to the cause again to reaching those goals. And I think that's the biggest problem for most health brands right now is that you don't just want to have someone sell the product. You actually need them to exercise. You actually need them to eat correctly and eat healthily, because otherwise they're not going to lose the weight that they want, or they're not going to build the muscle they want, which means they're going to stop using the product because they feel like the product is not necessarily working. But that's only one part of, of all the sorry, you're going to have to cut that out. There's only like one pillar of, why can't I find the words? It's only one part of the what? Give me the second word. Why can't I think?
Equation.
It's only one part of the equation, yeah. It's only one part of the equation at the end of the day. So on top of now I lost my train of thought completely. Anyway, we're going to just conclude. What else is there to talk about? Greg, nothing else?
I think that's cool, yeah.
Lekker. We'll just conclude. So you're going to cut out that other conclusion section then? Yeah. What was the last sentence now? Can't remember.
Yeah, I'm also lost there.
Anyway. Cool, man. Yeah, so thanks so much for coming. No, I can't just start like that. Hold on. Cool, man. Greg, I want to thank you for the time that you've taken to come through today. I want to thank you for dropping all the value bombs. That was really, really awesome. A lot of people out there that are either planning on starting online stores or who have started online stores recently is going to get a ton of value out of this. So I want to thank you for coming through.
Yeah, thanks, man. Like you said, maybe next time we can sort of delve deep into the funnels and do a bit of a funnel hack or something. I think you'd probably enjoy that. Yeah.
I would love that. And I think, we read the same books and we kind of like on the same sites and we kind of like look at the same courses. I do think the next time we're on, we're definitely going to unpack some strategic funnels specifically for the consumer space. So there's the next time for sure. Thanks so much,
Cool.
man.
Thank you.